you are not for sale. Your offer isn't a reflection of you. An offer is just a tool. It's just a step. It's really just an invitation that you are inviting somebody into an experience with you. Well, hey, Amanda here, and welcome back to the show. And this episode I'm really excited about because I have talked to many accomplished, amazing, interesting, smart entrepreneurs who want to package their expertise into coaching, into serving other people, but they kind of want to get paid. So this episode is great because we're going to talk about what to do if you've got like a dozen ideas for how you might present an offer. Maybe you've got a private coaching offer or a sprint you want to do or an intensive, or maybe you've got like idea after idea for workshops you could host, things that you could offer that are valuable to the world. And maybe you've even already been doing it. Maybe you've been in the trenches doing the thing and you're launching thing after thing after thing after thing. And it's just, and you find yourself just wondering like, is it me? Is it what I'm offering? Is it them? Is it the audience? And I'm really excited in this episode to unpack for you how a fellow creator, somebody who is a visionary, thinks of lots of cool ways to serve you, how I've been able to channel that and be able to have much more success doing it. So when I say success, I mean more views, more leads, more conversations, more invitations, more offers made, and of course, more money. So I'm really excited about this. I'm going to help you shift from idea overload to a really structured approach to making some decisions so you can get into action. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my testing methodology and what to do when it ain't working. So if you ever find yourself kind of getting into analysis paralysis, or you're building all these different ideas and nothing's really hitting, or, you kind of half build it. I see this a lot. People make 75% of what it is that they're hoping to create in their journals or through ChatGPT conversations or however you do your ideation. But then the doubts start kind of flooding in. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how do you select the idea to test? How do you actually test it to see if it's going to work? What do you do when the test fails? If you get that idea and it's a dud, it's a real stinker. What do we do with those things? And how do you increase the odds of success over the long term if you're a coach or a course creator or an expert who's monetizing your expertise online? So let's talk about why you're actually stuck. You're probably stuck not because you have bad ideas. It's just you have too many half-baked ones. And what ends up happening is you get overwhelmed. You get overwhelmed by all the possibilities. And I work with a lot of really smart people, a lot of smart coaches. And the thing about super smart people is that they, and I'm not even talking about necessarily grades smart. I'm talking, kind of those gifted, obsessive sort of people that they really want to get it right. And what ends up happening is their imagination kind of takes them to this place where, that's not going to work. And it's their imagination saying so, not real life, but they're listening to their thoughts, which I know it's kind of funny to say, like, don't trust what you think. But seriously, if you have all this judgment for what you're building, or all these doubts are coming in and you're letting the doubts win, you're never going to create anything. And when you don't create anything, there's nothing for the world to respond to. And so then there's nothing for people to move forward with. So, most people that tell me that they're stuck or they don't know what to do, that isn't really true. As soon as I start, scratching below the surface, when I start asking some more exploratory questions, and tell me in the comments if you find this to be true for you too. You actually do have like a lot of ideas. It's just that you don't like them enough, or you don't feel enough confidence to say the idea out loud to really own it. And so the patterns that we're really looking for are things like jumping from idea to idea. kind of going, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? And this is something that a lot of expert entrepreneurs do when they get a little bit of success, but not as much as they hoped for. So if they get a little bit of success and not as much as they hope for, it's very natural for them to jump ship and try something completely wholesale new. And then the same thing happens again. They got a little bit of a return, but they didn't really get a big one. And so if that's a pattern, definitely stay tuned, because I'm going to walk you through a framework that's going to really, really help you with that. The second thing I see a lot in our space is just copying people too closely, right? And so because you're copying somebody else too closely, you haven't really made it your own. So you lack the conviction behind it. And that's where we see people saying like, oh, well, if I looked like this other mentor, if I sounded like this other mentor, if I had the view count of this other mentor, if I had the money that this other mentor had, and basically bleeding all of your power away to factors that you can't control. And the thing that I really want you to walk away from in this episode is that you very much control what it is that you're creating. So if you feel like you have to reinvent the wheel for your very unique audience all the time, that's another big trap. And I've fallen into that one too, where you get this really myopic idea, like really narrow idea of who you'd really like to work with. And, I really see people kind of going on one side or the other of the spectrum. They're either trying to make everybody in the whole world happy, or especially as they've gotten to a level where they are successful but hitting a ceiling in their success and they're not really able to grow to that next level. A lot of the time it has to do with the fact that they are so narrow in the who of who they're going to work with that they've got this white knuckle grip on, like, if it doesn't look exactly like that, then I can't do it. And like it actually ends up constraining the growth. So if you are evaluating your ideas and you're saying things like it's too broad, it's too specific, it's too much like other people are doing, it's I don't know if I'm qualified to do it, maybe I'm an imposter and I don't know how to do it, then like need a process. Okay. You need a process to break this down. And because here's why. When you've got that really indecisive energy, when you're getting emotional yourself over your results, people feel that, so if you're disappointed in something that you did or you said or what you're building or you're creating, I mean, that is literally repellent to someone who might hire you for your real expertise. So we've got to do something about this insecurity. We've got to do something about these half-baked or three-quarters baked ideas and get more follow through. I think the thing that I really want you to take away from our conversation today, if nothing else, is that you are not for sale. And I even have to remind this of people who are successful. They've sold thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of their expert business, but they kind of get wrapped up in like, what are people going to think of me with this new offer? So just remember this, your offer isn't a reflection of you. An offer is just a tool. It's just a tool. It's just a step. It's just a process. It's just a deliverable. It's just one thing. It's not representing who you are, at your very, very core. It's really just an invitation that you are inviting somebody into an experience with you. That's it. That's all it is, right? It's not your identity. And when I look at a lot of coachy content these days, I'm seeing a lot of magical woo spiritual kind of content that is masking, hear me now, masking the lack of clarity and the lack of confidence that a lot of coaches have in their offer. Because the market has been a little wonky lately, because of the disruption of AI, because of personal factors, lots and lots of people are making very vague promises with their coaching right now, or they're basically undervaluing what they bring to the table because they simply aren't communicating it. It has nothing to do with your spirituality. It has nothing to do with your personal brand essence. It doesn't have anything to do with anything except that there's gaps in the clarity of communication that is required in order for people to authentically and peacefully choose you, Pikachu. Okay, so your offer is not your identity. I think of an offer as literally it's a bridge. It's a bridge between the problem and a result. So, and more accurately, it is, like I said, it's how you say it. It's how you communicate what it will be like to work together, and that you are bringing an excellent solution, better solution than they have experienced before, that they are going to be so much better off with your help, so much better off. And I think another big myth that I see a lot of people walk around with is this idea that you've got to be 100% confident all the time. No, like when you really nail the communication of your offer and having the conversation that counts, your own insecurities don't really enter into it at all. It's really about your confidence about solving problems that other people want solved. And that clarity piece usually stops people from being their best self, showing up in their most powerful way. And I don't want that for you. So today I want to take you through a signature tool that I've used with my paid clients for years, and it makes a huge difference to your outcomes. And it's called the 6P Offer Builder Framework. So the 6P Offer Builder Framework is a tool that gives clear structure for compelling offers, and it's for helping you attract your ideal client. So the first thing when it comes to communicating, think about your perfect person. Like, who is your ideal client? Think beyond the demographics. Think about their core desires, think about their values, think about what truly matters to them. And also, how do they speak? What do they talk about? What is it that they are saying about their world, their perspectives? And I really want you to consider, like, I've got kids, for example. And the way that I speak to my 8-year-old person in my life is very different than the way that I speak with my husband. And doesn't that sound like sensible? Like, we all adjust how we speak to our person based on who that person is and what they value, what they desire, how they talk, and what truly matters to them. My 8-year-old is obsessed with Minecraft and he loves playing Lego. And so we talk about that, but I don't talk about Minecraft and Lego like ever with my husband, except maybe to talk about my son. You know what I mean? So when it comes to clear communication, who you are speaking to really, really matters. Like this very video podcast that I'm doing right now, it's not going to resonate with literally most people. Like most people are going to scroll past this, not listen to this, skip past it, because it's not relevant if you're not building an expert-based business. It's not relevant if you're not an entrepreneur or entrepreneurially minded. It's not relevant if you've already figured all of this stuff out. You know what I'm saying? So really think about the person. And then once you've got the person in mind, the next thing is we think about the premise. So the premise in this case is, what is a significant life event or shift that has occurred for them? What is their context? What is context? I said that wrong. What is their pain point? What is that aspiration that they're driving towards? So this is where a lot of coaches get really, really stuck, because they start thinking like, okay, well, one person can have a lot going on. They could be solving a lot of different problems. They could be solving, going for a lot of different goals. And that's absolutely true. But your power is in the precision of communication, and really wonderful, clear communication is going to be rooted in the decision about what you are going to talk about and what you're not going to talk about. So when I'm helping my clients, because I work with coaches and experts who have either stalled out on their revenue or they're looking to build their business with strong foundations in the first place, I'm really thinking about like, what are the conversations I've really in real life had where people are describing to me what is the problem. And the problem is they have too many ideas to action. The problem is that they're hearing from lots of different sources that they're doing it the wrong way. The problem is that they're unclear in how they are communicating with their audiences, so their audience can't take any action. So your demonstration of the understanding of the exact situation your person finds themselves in, I would think of high priority problems. High priority, I call it a problem of appropriate magnitude. Something that is significant enough in their life that they're going to elevate their effort to resolve that thing above all other things. So you've probably even had the experience where At one season of your life, you had one particular set of concerns. And then in another season of your life, you had another particular set of concerns. It's called growth. It's called evolution. So what we're really trying to nail down here with the 6P framework is who's the person, but what's the particular moment or the particular premise of their life that you are hoping to join the conversation of. Okay, so now that we've got the premise, the next thing is the promise. So what specific, clear, and measurable outcome are you helping them to achieve? It's really, again, this is where I see a lot of coaches using magical language, using jargon, very coachy language. And the elevation is when you can speak in very clear terms, not clever, clear terms about what is the outcome that you really want to help people solve. Now, this is, again, a bottleneck, an area where people are like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to commit to here, because maybe you don't want to overpromise something that you can't deliver on. And I found that a really helpful exercise is, what's the promise you would make if you weren't worried about all that? If you weren't worried about the statistical probability, or you weren't worried about governing bodies getting mad at you for how you're saying it. If you were just saying in plain language what it is that you want to partner with somebody to accomplish, to achieve, to become, to create, to do, what is the promise that by the time you are finished working together, they will have? And then you can edit from there. But what a lot of people do is they try to edit that promise, or they try to edit that phrase as they're coming up with it. And it's kind of like slamming the brakes on your brain as you're trying to also hit the gas pedal with coming up with what that phrase is. And it's just a very clunky way to come up with it. So instead, let your creativity go wild and then ask what's wrong with it. But let your creativity really spark here as well. What can you promise? What would you really like to achieve in terms of a result with them? Oops, we jumped forward too fast. Okay. Once you have your promise, the next step in my process is to come up with the process. So, for example, this very podcast is an offer. Believe it or not, I'm inviting you to listen to my content for free, right? And in exchange, you hit the play button, you spend time with me. Like, that's actually a pretty sacred thing when you think about it. And so when I was thinking about the offer of this podcast, I was like, okay, who's my ideal person? My ideal person is a coach who's building their business and they've been frustrated with not making as much money as they'd like to. And I asked myself, like, why? Premise, what is it they're really wanting to do? Well, they want to be a lot clearer in their sales process and their marketing. They want to have consistency and a flow of leads and clients. So I really understand that, In terms of a promise, I was like, well, I promise you will know how to select a offer that makes sense for you, because you're going to have a way to think about it. So when I got to the process, I was like, okay, what framework, what structured steps, what methodology can I guide them through? And one of the biggest myths that I think is very prevalent in the coaching space is that if you can just be coachy enough, people are going to want to hire you. And what I found is that actually people pretty much like having some logical process attached to that coaching experience. And even if you are very go with the flow, I promise you there's a ritual attached to that. There's a way that you begin. There's a way that you conduct. There's a way that you end. So there very much is a repeatable process, even if it is very ethereal, even if it is very spiritual and woo, that's cool, that's okay. But there very much is structure and a process. And for the human mind to be able to process what is it that I'm actually signing up for or doing, or for you to have conviction in what you're doing, really thinking through, first I'm going to take them through this step. Then I'm going to take them through that step. Then I'm going to take them through that step. That recipe, that conviction of here's the plan, is one of the most important pieces of creating an offer. And again, it's an area that people consistently overthink, shortcut, or abandon. They don't even spend time on this. So definitely, once you make the promise, okay, what are the steps to take them through it? Okay, so the next piece, The next piece is the price. So now that you know how you're going to deliver, maybe you've got sessions, maybe you've got a group curriculum, maybe you've got templates, maybe you've got scripts, maybe you've got examples, maybe you've got demos, demonstrations, maybe you've got software. Like, you got all these pieces and ingredients to make the thing real, right? So then what's the price? What's the cost? What should people pay for this? And so, kind of coming back to my example of giving you this podcast, there's investment here. There's the time to actually record it. There's the technology that I'm using to create the visuals and to be able to, capture the actual episode itself. There's the time that my team is going to take to edit and put things together and to publish it on all of the different channels. So marketing is very much an investment, but why do it? Well, because even though it's not costing you, customer, directly the expense of doing it, my clients, when they pay fees to join my program, I'm stewarding that money to help make sure that I've got a marketing budget. And so when it comes to the price, for me, it's okay, can I do the podcast in an acceptable amount of time that I've set aside for marketing? Can I get it produced within the acceptable budget for the amount of team that I've got to support it? And that's why I am not a Diary of a CEO. I'm not one of the Hormozis, but we do quite a lot with what we've got and charge you nothing for this particular thing. And the thing is that it's an investment that when I do it really repeatedly over time, it earns trust and it builds rapport. It also reinforces retention with my existing clients because I'm teaching them something and reminding them of something. So yeah, no price to my listener, but it is very much worth the investment on my side because it does ultimately lead to more relationships that do convert. Oakley dokley, protections. So how can you reduce the perceived risk of purchasing your offer? So, that's one of the cool things about a free offer is the risk is the time that's spent on it. So when I'm thinking about protections for something that's free, I don't put a guarantee on it. I don't put all of this, I will make it up to you if I waste my time, because the thing is you can skip a podcast episode anytime, right? So you don't need a lot of protections for a free offer. For a paid offer, though, offering something like an action taker guarantee or a satisfaction guarantee, or maybe even having bonuses attached to what you're selling so that it helps make sure that they're the most likely to be successful when they use your product. Really, the protections are all about making sure that you're doing everything that you can to make the decision to work with you a really good one that they can be really proud of. Now, here's a really big tip. You can use the first 4 P's, which are person, premise, process, and promise and process, without building out this whole big sales funnel, right? So direct messages and conversational content count as really valuable market research. So, get started with the template. It's the process, and it's going to make a huge difference. I used to attend seminar after seminar. I would leave with notebooks just full of ideas. The course I was going to make, the mastermind I was going to build, the membership I was going to launch. And I've personally built many of them. I think in my own portfolio, I've done something like 74 different products since I started 8 years ago, which is actually a little bananas. That's a lot. But I did a lot of experimenting in real life. What happened a few years ago is I actually took a look at all of my data, my Stripe data, and I noticed that there were a few products that were making up 80% of my total revenue. And all the other products, even if I was making some sales, I wasn't making a lot of sales for those. And it also just told me where to double down and where to pay attention. So when I slowed down and I got really strategic about all the things that I had produced, I ended up picking the offers that people already wanted and doubling down on those. So don't feel guilty about having a lot of different options that you're testing, that you're throwing out there. The key is to do an evaluation after doing it and asking yourself key questions. How much did people take me up on this? How long did those clients stick with me over the long term? So ultimately, how much was my lifetime value of that client? How much joy did I have and fulfillment did I have with this particular method for attracting people? So I wanted to also just help you with a couple of things that kept me stuck for a long time, but also I see a lot of people struggle with, even if they're established entrepreneurs. And the first one is just believing that your audience is way too unique for an offer that you have. And if you've had an offer where people have been in the container and they really love it and they keep showing up and they're giving you positive feedback, you don't have an offer problem. You might have a positioning issue, which is, that's to say, the communication of what it is that you do offer. So you are very unique. And the thing is that the problems that people are facing are actually usually very common and very solvable with proven structures. It's just that we are all so overwhelmed. Our lives are so noisy. We're very busy. We have a lot of priority. And a lot of the value that you actually bring comes down to focusing in and honing in on the challenge without your client having to do all that research and focus. They can be freed to focus on other things. Another big trap is believing the lie that nobody wants coaching. I'm going to tell you what. No one wants generic coaching. No one wants to hire somebody that they feel like is just doing it to have the ego, or just doing it to doing it for themselves. But everybody wants to have a witness in their progress. Everybody wants to have someone that they can bounce ideas with and talk about challenging things with in a safe container. So I think the really key thing is that everyone wants solutions that work for them. And while not everyone's going to want to hire a coach, a lot of people will. And there's a huge opportunity, $20 billion global opportunity when it comes to coaching across all the different industries. So that whole thing about nobody wants it, maybe the people you're talking to don't want it, but there's lots of people who do. The last one is, I'm not qualified to make a big promise. Okay, let's just check in on that, right? So if you're obsessed with helping them to get a result and you're mapping the process along the way, when you map the process, you can hone in on what part of the process are people not really getting, they're not really reinforcing, they're not really actioning. You are probably, and I'm putting this internet video on the internet for everybody to see. But there's a very good chance that you are 90% more qualified than a lot of people, just because you've chosen to focus on your area. So it's not really a lack of qualification most of the time. Sometimes for like very, very specialized things or regulated things, you may need to get some additional qualification. But by and large in the coaching industry, so much of it has to do with simply making the decision to pro up, to have offers, and to follow through on your promises. So, I mean, like, wow, right? Revolutionary. So I would say that when it comes to your next offer, pick one and really focus on it for the next 30 days without changing your mind 60 times. Talk about it in conversations, sell it. One of my policies is sell 5 before you automate. And, I engage in something I call ugly selling. So ugly selling is when you're not using marketing tricks, you're not using your big branding, you're not using your associations. You're just saying, hey, I have a thing. Do you want the thing? Just ugly, basic, simple. And if people don't want to have the problem solved, then they're going to be like, they're not even going to say anything. They're going to ignore you. And that's a good thing, because then you're not building out something that nobody wants, right? And I think the really key thing about the offer itself is build the minimum viable option, the most expensive way to do it, the very hands-on way, clunky, not automated. Just like do it very basic first, and then you can refine it and make it even better. And, I think the big lesson here is, instead of having your ideas die on the page of a journal, put it into real life, but put it into the most minimally viable option possible to see if there's appetite for it, and then optimize once you've proven that. I would say the biggest things are don't worry about looking so professional and so polished, and don't worry about people finding out that you're doing it for the first time. Just tell them. Like, say it explicitly. I do this all the time. I'm like, this is the first time I've released the course. And like, no one minds. Like, there are people in your market who like to be the first one in line. They love that. And it's a small percentage compared to the standard. Like, I would say most people, most of the time, they want to see evidence. They want to see consistency. But there's always going to be like that small, first follower part of your audience that if they don't leap at it, then it probably isn't a good idea to build out for the masses. I would say really avoid switching your offers too quickly. you might want to test more quickly, how are you talking about the offer? How are you presenting the offer? How are you putting it out into the world? That is definitely worth spending time on. Assume no sales means the idea is don't assume that no sales mean don't assume that no sales means that you are pursuing a bad idea. It is almost, I don't want to say 100% of the time, but for sure 80 to 90% of the time, it's a messaging issue. It's a communication problem. It's being clever instead of being clear. It's being too generic and too common, too copy paste. It's really like just finding that sweet spot of clearly solving a problem in a believable way with people. So this week, I want you to ask yourself, who do I want to help right now? What result can I help them to get in the next 4 to 6 weeks? You know, a lot of coaches are building these year-long, crazy commitment kind of programs right now. And it's like, you know, when you've got a lot of people saying yes to a 6-week program, then if you want to launch the year-long mastermind, you know, you're going to have a bigger pool of people to draw from. You're going to be much more confident in what you're actually executing. Just let it be simple and let it be easy. What would I call that offer if I had to sell it tomorrow? That's a key question. Like, what would I just call it? What would I name it? And just post about it or DM 3 of your favorite champions, people who really like you back. And if you get some bites, then you're onto something. And if people are kind of ignoring your message or they're like, yeah, I don't know, then cool. Just try again. Lots of iteration is required for success as an entrepreneur. Now, if you love this and you like hearing me in your ear telling you all the things that you need to know to build a really amazing coaching business, make sure that you head to next5clients.com, next5clients.com to join our Clients Over Chaos free community. In that community, every single day, I'm posting our Daily Spark, which is a 5-minute audio that is going to boost your confidence as you're building your coaching business. Plus, every single week, we go live with a brand new training that is just for that community. And of course, all of the past ones are available in the library, completely free, next5clients.com. And you might be wondering, when does she sell to me? Well, you'll find out if you spend a little closer time with us. I love to give on social media. I love to give on the podcast. And if you're really interested in how I can help you, start with next5clients.com. That's number 5. And if you want to talk more directly, we'll include the link below for a coffee with Kaufman. You just have to buy me a coffee and we'll talk about whatever you want for 20 minutes. We'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for joining me. And don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, all the buttons, and share this episode with 3 of your friends who could really use some centering, some anchoring on how do they pick what is it that I'm going to focus on in my coaching business next in terms of what I'm offering, especially your friends that have lots and lots of ideas. I think this will be really, really helpful for them. And if you really love this, make sure you leave us a honest review. And that review is so helpful because it helps people to decide whether they want to listen to us further. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you in another episode.